Friedrich Nietzsche. The name alone carries a certain weight, a resonance that echoes through the halls of philosophy, reverberating through time and space. He is a spectre haunting the intellectual landscape, a harbinger of shattered idols and transvalued values, challenging the very core of our beliefs. To encounter Nietzsche's thought is to grapple with the force of nature, a tempest that upends comfortable assumptions and leaves destruction in its wake, forcing us to rebuild from the ruins. He is not for the faint of heart, nor for those seeking comfort in familiar truths. His words are daggers, sharp and piercing, aimed at the heart of hypocrisy and complacency, cutting through the veils of illusion. He challenged the very foundations of morality, religion, and even reality itself, questioning the pillars upon which society stands. His philosophy is not a soothing balm, but a bracing tonic, forcing us to confront the abyss within and embrace the chaos of existence. Nietzsche's influence is undeniable, a force that continues to shape our world. He stands as a pivotal figure in the history of thought, a bridge between the Enlightenment and the modernist revolutions of the 20th century, linking past and future. His fingerprints can be found on existentialism, postmodernism, and countless other intellectual currents influencing generations of thinkers. To understand Nietzsche is to embark on a perilous journey into the depths of the human condition, a journey fraught with challenges and revelations. It is a journey not without its rewards, for in the darkness he offers a glimpse of a world beyond good and evil, a world where the human spirit can soar to heights unimagined, transcending the ordinary and reaching for the sublime. Nietzsche's philosophy was not born in an ivory tower, detached from the world. It was forged in the crucible of a life marked by both brilliance and suffering, a life that was as tumultuous as it was intellectually vibrant. Born in 1844 in a Germany still grappling with the legacy of Romanticism, Nietzsche displayed a precocious intellect from a young age, showing an early fascination with literature, music, and philosophy. He excelled in his studies, particularly in philology and philosophy, and at the tender age of 24, he became a professor of classical philology at the University of Basel, a remarkable achievement for someone so young. But even as he achieved academic success, his health began to deteriorate, casting a shadow over his promising career. He suffered from debilitating migraines, digestive problems, and progressive blindness, ailments that plagued him for the rest of his life, making everyday existence a struggle. This constant physical torment seeped into his writing, lending it a raw, visceral quality that resonated with the pain and intensity of his own experiences. Nietzsche's personal life was equally tumultuous, filled with emotional highs and lows. He experienced unrequited love, alienation from his family and colleagues, and a growing sense of isolation, which only deepened his introspective nature. This sense of being an outsider, a lone voice crying out in the wilderness, would become a defining characteristic of his philosophy, shaping his thoughts on individuality and society. In 1879, Nietzsche resigned from his professorship due to his failing health, a decision that marked a turning point in his life. He spent the next decade wandering through Switzerland and Italy, a nomad in search of both physical and intellectual solace, seeking environments that might offer some relief from his ailments. It was during this period of intense solitude and introspection that he penned some of his most important works, including Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Beyond Good and Evil, and On the Genealogy of Morality, works that would cement his legacy as one of the most profound thinkers of his time. Thus Spoke Zarathustra, perhaps Nietzsche's most famous work, is a philosophical novel that reads like a fever dream. It tells the story of Zarathustra, a prophet who descends from his mountain retreat to preach a new gospel to humanity. Zarathustra's message is one of radical self-overcoming, a call to transcend the limitations of conventional morality and embrace a life of creativity, power, and self-affirmation. Central to Zarathustra's teachings is the concept of the Übermensch, often translated as Superman or Overman. The Übermensch is not a literal superhuman, but rather a new type of human being, one who has overcome the limitations of traditional values and created their own meaning in a meaningless universe. The Übermensch is not bound by conventional notions of good and evil. They are a free spirit, a creator of values, who embraces life in all its messy complexity. They are not afraid of power, but rather see it as an essential aspect of human existence. Nietzsche uses Zarathustra's pronouncements to challenge the reader's most cherished beliefs. He attacks Christianity, democracy, and even compassion, arguing that these systems are all based on a slave morality that seeks to suppress the strong and elevate the weak. Section 4. Beyond the chains of morality, masters, slaves, and the will to power. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche further develops his critique of traditional morality. He argues that all moral systems are based on a fundamental distinction between master morality and slave morality. Master morality, according to Nietzsche, is the morality of the strong, the noble, and the powerful. It values qualities such as strength, courage, pride, and self-assertion. Slave morality, on the other hand, is the morality of the weak, the resentful, and the oppressed. It values qualities such as humility, compassion, and self-denial. Nietzsche argues that slave morality has come to dominate Western civilization, largely through the influence of Christianity. He sees this as a form of cultural decline, a triumph of weakness over strength. Underlying both master morality and slave morality is what Nietzsche calls the will to power. This is not simply a desire for domination over others, but rather a more fundamental drive that animates all living things. It is the urge to grow, to expand, to overcome resistance, and to create. For Nietzsche, the will to power is not something to be feared or suppressed, but rather something to be embraced and channeled into creative endeavors. Section 5. Tragedy's dual nature, Apollo and Dionysus, in eternal struggle. Nietzsche's fascination with ancient Greece, particularly its tragic art, is evident throughout his work. He delved deeply into the cultural and philosophical underpinnings of Greek society, seeking to understand the profound impact of its artistic expressions. In The Birth of Tragedy, he explores the origins of Greek tragedy and argues that it arose from a fundamental tension between two opposing forces, the Apollonian and the Dionysian. This duality, he believed, was at the heart of the most powerful and moving art. The Apollonian, named after the Greek god of light, reason, and order, represents the principle of individuation, form, and restraint. It embodies clarity, logic, and the pursuit of knowledge. It is the force that seeks to impose order on chaos, to create beauty through harmony and proportion. This force is evident in the structured beauty of classical architecture and the balanced compositions of Greek art. The Dionysian, named after the Greek god of wine, ecstasy, and madness, represents the principle of intoxication, frenzy, and the dissolution of the self. It is the embodiment of passion, unrestrained creativity, and the breaking down of boundaries. It is the force of primal instinct, of raw emotion, of the unity of all things. This energy is seen in the wildness of nature, the fervor of dance, and the intensity of primal rituals. Nietzsche argues that Greek tragedy, at its best, achieved a perfect balance between these two opposing forces. This balance created a profound and moving artistic experience that resonated deeply with audiences. The Apollonian provided the form, the structure, the rational element, while the Dionysian provided the emotional intensity, the raw power, the sense of the sublime. Together, they created a dynamic interplay that was both intellectually stimulating and emotionally stirring. However, Nietzsche believed that this balance was eventually lost, as the Apollonian element came to dominate Western culture, leading to a suppression of the Dionysian and a decline in artistic creativity. This shift, he argued, resulted in a culture that was overly rational and devoid of the passionate intensity that once defined it. He saw his own philosophical project as an attempt to reawaken the Dionysian spirit in a world that had become too rational, too ordered, too tame. By doing so, he hoped to restore a sense of balance and reinvigorate the creative potential of humanity.